Hi there, I'm Brobee223 and thanks for tuning in. I've got this crazy hobby where each year I try to share with you, my YouTube audience, one or two semi first person perspective hunting related stories. I like this first person perspective for several reasons. It lets me stay a little shy. It's a throwback to first person style gaming that was born in my adolescence. It's unique in that there aren't many other folk doing it. And lastly, I feel like it makes it easier to share my perspective with my audience. So, as a herd of elk started hitting our late planted green feed barley rotation while I was exploring a bare bow concept with my compound bow and camera setup, I started wondering if maybe this year could be the year to try and pull off an archery episode. Bare bow compound archery, aka no sights. It's severely range limiting and demands development of unusual technique, but for me, all worth it in that by removing the stuff that sits between me and the animal I'm chasing, somehow the resulting experience becomes substantially more powerful. I'd been really late to the game in developing the idea, so consequently was struggling to catch up in the realm of storytelling. I clung to the hope I'd make gains while trying to figure out that magic marriage of terrain and wind and where to set up, but not in my wildest dreams did I imagine a perfect first night 28-meter opportunity that unfolded super quick, but embarrassingly at 90 degrees to my camera setup. I made a snap decision to prioritize meat in the freezer over YouTube, but in doing so, sacrificed that precious first person perspective I crave so much. And without it, I felt like I would have robbed my audience of an essential element, so please bear with me as we head back to the drawing board. Great fortune for me then that inspiration struck again quickly, coming via the admiration of the amazing foot construction of a ruffed grouse I was lucky to harvest the following weekend. Holding it in my hands, my imagination immediately leapt 70 million years into the past, where ginormous theropods weighing somewhere between 5,000 and 15,000 pounds stalked the forests on feet constructed exactly like the ones I held in my hands. That the genetic phenotype for 3 clawed forward toes plus 1 clawed opposing could survive unchanged despite 70 million years of evolutionary pressure? This was mind blowing for me, and now every time I see a grouse moving through the landscape, my imagination soaks me with dreams around what it might be like to be hunted by one of their distant ancestors. So here's my pitch for this year's episode, sharing some Brobee style gun discovery experience via hunting grouse that live in and make complete these forests I love so much. Favoring habitat like this replanted young spruce and pine stand that's stitched in between freshly logged and still standing old growth, here is one of those amazing theropod ancestors, the North American spruce grouse. I feel like these birds have a lot of character, and early in the season, before they've seen much hunting pressure, it's actually possible to follow them around the woods a bit, where that personality sure gets put on display. I was gonna talk a lot about their distinctive markings, that blaze red upper eye patch, their copper plated tails, seasonally expandable crops and digestive tracts, as well as their amazing courtship displays. But as I write this, my lovely bride is laughing beside me, telling me I talk too much and instead should let this beautiful bird shine in a moment of silence. Merry Christmas, my love. Here you go. In another part of the forest, along brushy edge habitat where there's a bit more mix between the conifer and deciduous trees, lives the ruffed or willow grouse. For sure, the range of the two different birds overlap, but whereas the spruce grouse is a winter conifer specialist thriving in a dark timber environment, the ruffed grouse, like this one, depend on a mix of conifer cover, but with access to a winter diet of buds and catkins that come from deciduous trees. Adorned with a distinct feathered crest on their head, a large ruff of longer feathers around their neck, and these extra feathery legs, they are well adapted for winter. But check out this evolutionary masterpiece. These seasonal comb-like scales, which emerge laterally each year from their toes. Called pectinations, they are regrown every fall to function like snowshoes, better enabling the ruffed grouse to walk atop freshly fallen snow. A fantastic tool for grouse hunting is a simple bolt-action rifle, chambered in .22 long rifle, and set up with a low-power variable optic. The LPVO makes targeting the grouse's head reasonably easy, and this approach maximizes meat preservation with the added benefit of a binary outcome. Either you have a dead grouse or a clean miss. Standard velocity .22 long rifle paired with an LPVO is also great from the perspective that when you unexpectedly flush a grouse from the ground and it flies up into a nearby tree, provided you can line up the grouse's head with a trunk that's 3 inches in diameter or greater, it's still possible to safely take them. How do I know that 3 inches is the magic number? Well, I took the opportunity to empirically test it while clearing a large spruce blowdown earlier this fall. You can see here that 2 3/4 of an inch in diameter gets a pass-through, whereas 3 inches is sufficient to catch and contain. Now knowing that, let's go slowly walk the edge of a 2006 vintage replanted cut block where we just might find some ruffed grouse. Uh-oh, I don't like the looks of that. Yeah, I am gonna have to confess that seeing this while slowly moving through the woods armed with just my .22 feels a little unsettling. And the icing on the cake are these cub tracks that suggest maybe it's time to rethink my loadout. My first thought was to reach for the trusty old 870 Police, giving us the option of slugs for bear or birdshot for grouse. Here we are back in the woods to try it out. I had held about 4 inches above the head of the grouse, hoping to catch it with the bottom fringe of my pattern, but even at 10 yards, the pattern from this gun's fixed improved cylinder choke is quite open, resulting in pellet penetrations through the breast meat. Feathers pulled into the meat can cause spoiling to start less than 24 hours later, even when refrigerated, and this made me start to wonder about something different, like this Chiappa Model 1886 Ridge Runner Takedown in 4570 Government. Knowing I'd want to have some Full House 4570 deeper in the magazine for bear, but not wanting to experience this every time I drop the hammer on a grouse, I hand-loaded some 405 grain Campro copper-plated lead bullets targeting subsonic velocities. A quick range session confirmed velocity, shootability, and decent point of impact relative to the big power loads, so now back out to the woods we went to try them out. With the goal of maximum meat preservation, my MO is still head or neck shots, which even with subsonic 4570 still hits grouse like the hammer from God. But this I was surprised to discover. My subsonic load still has insane penetrating power, passing straight through the 10-inch diameter base of this healthy spruce tree. How much energy did that bullet still have as it sailed through the woods and beyond? Let's go see what we can learn about that. To do so, let's cut a variety of log diameters from our spruce blowdown, starting out with one not too dissimilar from my grouse shot passed through this morning. I set up a large row of water bottles behind it and was surprised to learn that the slug had not only enough energy to pass through 10 inches of spruce, but also completely through 2 feet of water bottles behind. So how much living spruce would we need to stop a subsonic copper-plated 4570 projectile? I started working up in diameter to find out. There we go. Okay, here's our results. 10 inches in diameter, pass through. 11.5 inch diameter, pass through. 12.5 inch diameter, pass through. 13.5 inch diameter, contained. But that's a pretty big tree, and it made me wonder what a subsonic expanding bullet like this 410 grain Hornady Sub-X could be like. Looks like pretty good expansion, but here's the rest of our results. 4 inches in diameter, pass through. 4 3/4 inches in diameter, pass through. 5 3/4 inches in diameter, pass through. 6 1/4 inches in diameter, contained. It totally surprised me how much smaller the tree could be with the expanding bullet. But what do you think? Is there enough wood behind this spruce grouse for a safe shot? I think I would have gone for it, but alas, I'm too slow. We'll have to hunt up another. Sweet. Definitive result with no damage to the edible meat. Exactly what we were hoping for. So what's my favorite way to cook a spruce grouse? They have unusually dark red breast meat, which many folk write off as almost unedible. I have to disagree though, as they're my absolute favorite way to prepare a steak sandwich, provided I treat them the same way that I'd treat a high-dollar steak, meaning cooking it no more than medium rare. Oh yeah. I was also curious about subsonic 44 Magnum, so I worked up a 1050 foot per second load for my 12-inch barreled Aimpoint Acro equipped Chiappa 1892 Alaskan Takedown using a 240 grain Hornady XTP bullet. I sacrificed a young spruce tree to the cause and firing from 2 meters back, worked my way down its trunk until I hit containment. I cut out the containing segment, measured to learn that just over 3 inches was required to catch the subsonic XTPs, and with a little hatchet work was able to recover the bullets you're looking at now. The XTPs expand well even at low velocity, which I suspect helps a lot in the shallow penetration department. But wanting more in case of bear, I start my loadout with some Full House 44, then top off with my low velocity grouse round. And with all that under our belt, let's now head back out to the woods for some Winchester 1892 grouse action. It's kind of a cool gun, a design that's more than 100 years old by one of the greatest gun designers of all time, light and short to be super handy in the woods, decent 5+1 capacity, quickly repeating, and in a ubiquitous caliber that's also useful for bears. About the only thing I don't like is it's difficult to sling. Despite this drawback, I'm still craving more 1892 adventure, so I set out to find a ruffed grouse to take back to the kitchen so I could share with you another of my favorite preparations. Cool gun and super cool bird. As I breast each bird out, I also make sure to first-hand inspect whatever's in its crop. It seems that snowberries are a big-time favorite of the ruffed grouse around our place, and in their absence, it becomes budded tips of deciduous shrubs and trees that keep them going all winter long. Meat from the ruffed grouse is light, white, delicate, and delicious. After breasting and carefully washing, we'll start by filleting them to try to ensure our resulting pieces are uniform in thickness. We double bread them with a treatment of whipped eggs in between each breading. Then we'll quickly fry in hot olive oil just till golden brown. The result is what we call bush nuggets, and they are for sure a family favorite. I like mine with either sweet Thai chili or Frank's hot sauce. Okay, the 1892 is a super fun gun, but in my opinion, a serious feature of any serious rifle is a sling. Not wanting to go even more hardcore Bubba on my 1892 than I already had, I traded my way into a Smith & Wesson 1854. It's still pretty compact. I get an extra couple inches of barrel length, and while it's not as hot as the 1892, more importantly, it's super easy to set up with a sling. Let's go try it out. Now here comes the surprise of the season. While sitting down to soak it all in one afternoon after a successful grouse encounter, I was totally accosted by this red squirrel who charged me grizzly bear style to try to run me off my grouse. He was surprisingly persistent, and I was bedazzled to learn that they are for real omnivores, something I never would have believed if I did not see it with my own two eyes. I finally managed to recover my squirrel-ravaged grouse to take a trophy shot with the 1854, then set out to use the Smith & Wesson for a whitetail deer hunt I undertook to participate in this year's hunter-enabled CWD monitoring program. Not really any surprise then that with good shot placement, good bullet performance, and a good 40-meter blood trail through the snow, her recovery was easy. And with chronic wasting creeping westward across our province, I was really pleased when 4 weeks later her CWD results came back negative. The Chinook and their accompanying beautiful skies that had made for a very temperate fall then gave way in the weeks that followed, letting winter's icy grip close tightly with some bitter cold. This was nice from the perspective of bear safety, as they're all now deep in their winter torpor, and I'm way less worried about stalking the woods with a smaller gun. I brought one today, and I'm pretty excited to be hot on a fresh set of tracks. In fact, I think they're fresh enough that it's time to slow down and really, really look. There, hiding in plain sight, motionless to be nearly invisible, concealed just behind a couple sprigs of dead grass. That was a factory Remington load of extra dense number 9 tungsten supershot, choked tightly through a TPS Arms M6 Scout. This one's set up as 410 under 22 Hornet, and I like it so much that next year it might get its own solo show. But right now, this little guy looks hungry, so it's probably time to wrap things up before someone gets hurt. I had a total blast bringing you on my Great Grouse Extravaganza, and very much appreciate you watching. Thank you, and between now and next year, best wishes for you and your families. Brobee223, signing out.